Hello, welcome everybody who's live on Facebook now. We're live both on TikTok and Facebook, so thank you for joining us. We'll be answering immigration questions during this whole period. So if you have any questions relating to immigration, go ahead and put them in the comments, and then we're going to start answering them and get as many as we can in during our period today.
That's right, and we already have a lot of questions here, and thank you, Carlos, for sending us a little gift here on TikTok as well. Today is TikTok Tuesday, and we're excited to get started. So I'm going to go on here and choose a question at random, and we have a question from Jaime Perez, and his question is about his taxes and how that can affect his residence. So he's saying that he's currently in the collection period and if that can affect him becoming a resident in the future.
Well, taxes can definitely play a role in certain processes with immigration. It becomes more of an issue if you owe taxes and you're becoming a citizen, because that is actually a question that's asked on the application itself. As far as becoming a resident, typically you're going to want to be up on your taxes, but it's more important your sponsor. So if you're going to be doing this through a family member, they're going to be your financial sponsor, and that actually has more impact than your taxes do. So whoever your sponsor is going to be, their taxes need to be up to date because they have to show that they have the ability to help you if you ever require to need any type of help. So it's more important for the sponsor, but yes, it is important to have your taxes for the future because there are questions, especially when you become a citizen. They're going to be asking those types of questions.
Yeah, that's a great question too. And we also have a question here from Isa, and she says that she wants to know which border she can go to ask for parole for her baby. She said that she has a refugee visa, but her baby does not.
Okay, so if you're already in the United States and have the visa and you're trying to get it for a child that's your dependent, then there are ways to do that without having to go to a border or to go to a specific border or port of entry. That's the port of entry. That's the word I was looking for. So there are ways to do it, but it is important to go ahead and get that documentation done so that your child will be covered as they grow up. And so my suggestion would be that that's a little more complex than just explaining it here on the live event, is to give us a call. Our consultation's free, and we can walk you through the process of how to make sure that your child has the proper documentation.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to know the phone number to call for a free consultation, it's 704-522-6363. And the phone number is also listed right here. If you go to the CF Immigration page, it's right there in the bio. And you guys can give us a call for a free initial consultation. And we also have a question here from Juan. We're getting a lot of questions today. And Juan asks, or he says that he filed his petition for his green card through Asylum 3 weeks ago, and he wants to know how long it's taking to get the green card via Asylum.
So what we're seeing with green card applications in general, it's taking about, I still think it's taking about a year, isn't it, Raquel?
Yeah, I believe
for those
so.
applications to go through. They've slowed down significantly. And so the good thing is with Asylum, sometimes they just award the card. They don't necessarily make you go through an interview process. So that could speed it up a little bit, but I would plan on it. If it were me, I'd plan on it taking a year, just because they are taking so long with COVID and everything else that's going on right now. They are taking a lot longer than they used to. So I would anticipate it about a year.
Yeah. And if you want to check it out yourself, you can also go to uscis.gov and you can type in the search processing times, and it'll take you, and you can put the form that you filed. So this would be the I-485 form, and you would choose the field office or service center, and that'll show you more of an estimate. So it depends also on your service center where it was filed. And I think I'm also going to be doing a video about that, so you can look for that in the near future here on CF Immigration. I'll be posting a YouTube video and a TikTok video about how you can check out the processing times, because I know it can be a little complicated, and maybe you're like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this website. How do I know if this is the real website? I totally understand. I'll be making a TikTok video to help you out with that. And I also have a question here from Natalia, and she asks if her daughter can get married if her daughter was also included in her asylum application. Would that affect her daughter?
Okay, so your daughter is the
Derivative.
So you're the principal.
In the asylum.
The daughter's the derivative. It has a potential. It could. I mean, if she marrying a U.S. citizen, and so that process will continue with her in a different way. But if she's not marrying a U.S. citizen or a way to get her status, there is the potential that it could impact, because the person has to remain a child. And so in order to be a child, you have to be under the age of 21. And also in certain circumstances, being married also takes you out of that category as well. So that would be something that you definitely have to look at if you have an asylum application pending. If it's already been approved and she's already in that status with you, then that's different. We could talk about that. But if it's still pending, then yes, it could have an impact on her ability to stay under you with your application.
Yeah, and Natalia, we would recommend a consultation just to see what part of the process you're in right now and be able to talk to you more about that in order to give you legal advice. As with all of our answers, we are giving general answers based on the information that you've given us, and it's always best to do a consultation.
Absolutely. So that's a great question, and that's something to keep in the back of minds for people with children that are in processes, is that aging out and marriage and a few other things can have an impact on somebody's ability to continue with an application or to continue with a visa. So that was a very good question. We don't get that one very often, but that was a very good question.
Absolutely. Speak Spanish better. And we also have a question here from Joel, and Joel Mejia asks, he says that he has his last court date. He's wondering what happens if he goes to his last court date and he gets deported and he owes money on his house and car. So that's an interesting question.
That is, and just generally speaking, what happens in immigration court is that the immigration judge can give you an order of removal. That does not mean you're deported right there on the spot. So there aren't ICE agents in the courtroom that come and deport you at that moment. Usually what will happen is they'll go through a process. You'll eventually receive a letter from ICE asking you to come to self-report and go through the process that way. So it won't happen that day. Very, very, very rare. The only times I've ever seen that happen have been situations where somebody has an extensive criminal history. Then it could happen on the same day. But for everyone else, it's always the judge gives an order. That order is then given to ICE, and then it'll happen down the road. So even if you do go to court and the judge orders you removed, everything that's not going to happen that day. So you will have some time to work things out if you don't have a defense. And so hopefully, if you're in immigration court, hopefully the best option is that you have a defense to be able to remain here in the United States. So depending on where you are in that process, if this really is your last hearing and you don't have any relief, then yes, you probably could get an order of removal, and at that point it will be in ICE's hands as to enforce it.
Yeah, and that's great information, because many times when we do Q&As, and I've watched other Q&As as well, it's not a question that gets asked very often, and I know that's one of the biggest fears for undocumented immigrants, that they're going to get deported right there on the spot. And maybe that's why they don't want to go to court, or even to their first court hearing. So it's always important to attend your court hearing. If you don't, you'll likely get deported in absentia. So always best to go and seek representation. We offer free consultations for that reason as well, to be able to help you understand if you do have any defenses or any relief.
Absolutely. Because there are times that people don't think that they may have relief or a defense to be able to stay in the country, and they do. And so it is important to walk through that just to see what is there, because if you have a defense, that could end up leading to, in certain cases, leading to a green card. And that's part of what we talk about. That's what we do on a daily basis, is we try to change lives for generations to come. So that's our driving force, what we want to do, and that's a way of doing it. It's finding creative defenses when it comes to immigration court.
We also have a question here from Vicky, and she says, what's going on with the TPS applicant? Any new update? So TPS varies from country to country, and we know that it was a very hot topic with the last administration, with them trying to end TPS for certain countries like El Salvador. Right now, that has stayed. TPS is still available to reapply for people from El Salvador and many other countries. But we would just need to know what country you're talking about. We haven't heard any updates on TPS recently, so everything has remained the same.
Okay, and Raquel, what's happening with Venezuela as far as it relates to TPS?
Okay, so Venezuela, thankfully, last year, they allowed people to apply for TPS. The registration period right now is from March 9th, 2021 through September 9th, 2022. They have to show continuous residence in the U.S. from March 8th, 2021. So that's something that has allowed a lot of Venezuelans who were here in that before that period to obtain a sort of status. And we're thankful for that, obviously. But at this moment, there are no new updates for Venezuela.
People ask the question a lot, is can I apply for TPS while I have an asylum application pending? And immigration has come back and said, yes, that's fine, because they overlap. The whole reason for TPS is to protect people from having to go back to their home country, which is the same thing that asylum does as well. So since they serve a similar purpose and overlap, they do allow for both of those processes.
Absolutely. And if you guys have any questions about TPS as well, you can give us a call. I know there are some people who think, oh, well, I'm from this country and I showed up today, so I should qualify for this. It's always very important to remember what dates you had to be here, because that's a very key part of TPS. And for most of the other countries renewing TPS, you can give us a call and we can schedule a consultation for you. Our phone number is 704-522-6363. And we do have another question regarding TPS. This person asks, what does TPS mean? And that's a great question. I know sometimes we throw out these terms, immigration terms, and it's like, what are they talking about? So TPS means temporary protected status. The secretary may designate for a country TPS due to the following temporary conditions in the country. So it can be ongoing armed conflict, such as civil war, an environmental disaster. So in that instance, kind of like El Salvador too was going through environmental disasters back in the day, and also armed conflict. And it can also be other extraordinary and temporary conditions. So it is designated to certain countries, and it allows these people to be able to stay in the country with a status, which gives them the option to get a work permit and not be deported.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. And different reasons are given for TPS. So that's a great point, because, for instance, Haiti was with the earthquakes. The earthquakes started it, but also political unrest. Syria is related to war. So that's a great point, Raquel. It has to do with the country that you're coming from, that there's something going on in the country that is so above and beyond what is typical.
And as always, thank you, Attorney Mercer, for taking the time to answer so many amazing questions today.
Absolutely. Great questions today. We had quite a few that it's the first time I've heard those questions before. So those were some good questions, very diverse questions today.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for leaving your questions, and we'll see you back here on Facebook Friday.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.